Nation. The hobby is the people. Weekly news and interviews. It's your number one source. Sports Card Nation. The hobby is the people. Sports Card Nation.
Welcome to another stocked and loaded episode of the Sports Card Nation podcast, the show that brings you all the important hobby news, discussions, debates, opinions, info, and interviews with key hobby and sports dignitaries. Also, if you're good, you know we are going to give away something. Now, here's the guy that wanted the cards more than the gum. John Newman.
What is up? Episode 112 is here. Got some news right off the bat. Wanted to do all the house cleaning, if you will. I posted on my social media, but I'll make the official announcement during the intro here. Spreaker Prime, podcasting platform, reached out to the show with an offer to go onto their Spreaker Prime platform. We had a conference call where they explained how it works. It's a premium level where they select certain shows that are doing fairly well. They seeked me out and made that offer to join that level, and so I've agreed to do so. What does it mean for you as far as with the show? Nothing. There's some new tools involved. It might, hopefully it'll be a little cleaner of a product. Maybe some different guests potentially being. We're on more platforms. I'm anticipating being on more platforms, more exposure, even more overseas. We'll have more downloads, and so should be good. On that note, we are going to change Hobby Quick Hits from Wednesday release to Monday. So Hobby Quick Hits will come out on Mondays now instead of Wednesday, and Sports Card Nation will remain on Friday. So beginning of the week and back end of the week. Start your week with us, your work week with us, and end your work week with us. So Monday, Hobby Quick Hits. Friday, Sports Card Nation. I want to thank Spreaker for extending that invitation. There's some more bells and whistles at my disposal. Like I said, there'll be more platforms. You'll find both shows on, and hopefully good things come from it. Well, this is the first show on the Spreaker side of the house. I want to thank Anchor for being the host for over 2 years, and have nothing bad to say about them as well, but happy to be part of the Spreaker family. Today's guest is none other than Eric Doty, CEO and founder of the Loupe app. That just got a $3 million seed investment from a group involving Nat Turner. We're going to talk to him about that, what that money is going to lead to. That app is doing very, very well, and sort of changing the game, and breakers are doing very well that are on it, but they're going to be more than just a breaking one shop, one size fits all type thing. And we're going to talk, Eric's going to tell you, all about that during the interview. So that's coming up here shortly. Well, so with that being said, let's get this show started.
And here we go.
Time for this week's
Incoming!
product releases. All right, time for this week's new release product calendar. Today, the 29th, 2020, Leaf Metal Baseball, Hobby in Jumbo. On February 3rd, we have quite a bit of products. These are all February 3rd releases. 2020-21, Topps UEFA Champions League Chrome Soccer. 2020 Upper Deck Marvel Ages. 2021 Donruss Racing Hobby. 2020-21 Panini NBA Hoops Basketball Hobby. And 2021 TriStar Hidden Treasures Game Day Greats Autographed Football jerseys. So that's it for this week, with the 3rd being a heavy release day. As always, with what's going on with the pandemic, some things may be pushed back and come out this week, and other things may be delayed, to be determined, as they like to say. So there you go.
Sports Card Nation Podcast is your weekly hobby and sports podcast. Now on tons of platforms including Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, and many more. Listened to in 44 different countries globally, Sports Card Nation is one of the most interactive podcasts around, providing great content, giveaways, and some of the hobby's best interview guests without time constraints. Thousands can't be wrong. We want to thank all the wonderful listeners around the world, our awesome guests on the show, and our tremendous sponsors making us what we are today. Remember, without you, there's no us.
It's time for the Hobby What's Up, where we go around the hobby world and tell you all the latest news and breaking stories from the hobby we love.
What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up?
All right, I stand corrected. Vintage Sports Cards from Twitter contacted me, messaged me, and said, "Hey John, I love the show, but your story on the Collectors Universe buyout was a little incorrect with how you phrased it." And he was right. I followed up and got the exact information, and so thank you to Vintage Sports Cards for pointing that out. I do want to be correct, especially when we're talking about these things. So here's what happened. The original purchase buyout price was $700 million by the Nat Turner Investment Group for Collectors Universe, all their lines. And 4 of the investor group shareholders groups were not happy with that $700 offer. So the Nat Turner Investment Group upped their bid to $853 million. And now it's being reported that still 2 of those 4 shareholder groups want that number to go even higher. I guess the buyout price per share now is at $92 a share, and those 2 shareholder groups want that number to be closer to $100 a share. And you may listen to this and think, $7 a share, is that big of a deal? It is when you think about some of these groups or individuals have thousands of shares or hundreds of thousands of shares. So what sounds like $7, it could be $700,000 to an individual person or a group. And so that's a good chunk of change. And those shareholder groups are telling the Nat Turner groups, all right, UFC is now in the Panini America family, switching over from Topps. Panini now is licensed and authorized to do the UFC brand, and so you weren't sure you ever going to see it, but I'm imagining you're going to see UFC Prism. So I'm sure Panini will do a good job with that, and be interesting to see their take on the brand in comparison to what Topps has done with it already. So we'll have to wait and see. The eBay standard envelope shipping option is now underway. How this works is, for those lesser price cards that, are not as easy always to sell, and the shipping can get expensive unless it's free. And they offer this standard envelope pricing structure for shipping. A 1-ounce envelope will be 51 cents. A 2-ounce envelope will be 71 cents. And a 3-ounce envelope will be 91 cents. It has to fit all the size. You can't send graded cards, and it has to fit through that slot and be legal there. But this, I think this will help the sales of lesser cards, and even someone like myself that normally would not list those sort of cards on eBay, it will make me maybe reconsider that. And I think you'll see some of those smaller card sales go up.
Wow, is very nice.
All right, we're going to have them on here briefly, but as you heard me say in the open, Loupe, the app, speaking of Nat Turner and Collector's Universe, he's also part of the investment group that has invested $3 million investment money in the Loupe app, and that's going to propel that app even more forward. It's doing very well, and like I said, I'll let you hear it right from the CEO, Eric Doty's mouth here in the interview, what that means to the company. But obviously it means very, very good things for them.
All right.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Commence interview sequence.
Real happy to have my next guest on the One of One Card Shop guest line. His name is Eric Doty. He's the creator and CEO of the Loupe app, and it's been 3 months since its launch. It's doing very well, trending very well, and we're going to talk obviously about that and some of his background as well. So Eric, welcome to Sports Card Nation.
Thank you for having me on the show.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. Thanks for coming on. So the Loupe, it's correct me if I'm wrong, it's about 3 months old now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we launched on October 23rd.
Okay. I guess the first question, I know we talked a little bit off the air, how some people mispronounce it Loupe. I don't get that, but where did the name, when I hear Loupe, I'm in the grading cards. That's where my mind goes, like a loop you look through for magnification. Is that where's the name kind of come from?
Yeah, so like you said, Loupe is the little magnifying glass used to look at collectibles and money and jewelry.
Yeah,
and we really thought the name was a little clever because all of our features really rely on the camera of your phone, or eventually camera of maybe your desktop, and we see that as kind of your digital loop of looking at your cards and looking at these collections. So yeah, I think it's a little different. We wanted to steer away from a lot of the other products and services out there that are they're very straightforward in their name. So yeah, we wanted to do something that's a little different. And if we start to expand beyond sports cards to Pokemon and something, we wanted something that was a little more broader than just straight like sports card breaks.
Yeah, so it has that kind of built-in expansion already in there, and if that's the direction you do go. I know you come from sort of the technical, the gaming side of things. I know you work for Microsoft for the Xbox 360, but I believe I heard you collected cards as a kid, and then you've kind of come full circle again.
Yeah, so I collected cards when I was a kid. I actually grew up on a dairy farm south of Buffalo, New York. So we didn't have a lot of access to professional sports. I think we had a little minor league baseball team near Jamestown, New York. But for the most part, most part, my connection to sports was either me playing or me collecting sports cards. And this was probably my most distinct memory was collecting Derek Jeter rookie cards. And I think like Marshawn Lynch, I think I had a few of him as well. So maybe like my childhood tweens. I think when I was a teenager, I kind of let it go.
Yeah.
I found out recently, side note, that I think it was like 4 years ago, my parents were moving and they threw out all my sports cards that they found. and I know for a fact I probably had at least half a dozen gold Derek Jeter rookies.
Wow.
I'm like, man, if I had those today, I'd go get those graded, but no, they were thrown out. So yeah, my career, about 12 years in video games. So I worked at Xbox on the Xbox 360, mostly around Xbox Live, as a service, and the benefits of obviously playing online and all the community factors built around that. And then I worked in live video game streaming with a company called Mob Crush, and I also ran a game server with a small team. And I was really looking for the kind of like next thing in my career. I knew I really wanted to lead my own company. I had led teams, but I'd never like from like creating the thing to actually running the company, I had never done before. And I was looking around and I started to get back into sports cards, and I found, eventually breaks. And, I was looking up sports cards. I know obviously there was a spree where Gary Vee was talking about sports cards all day, every day. And I just started to notice more and more. I'm like, hey, there's definitely something here. This isn't what a lot of people probably think is that lull of, the junk wax era and like the period after it that a lot of people associate with sports cards. I'm like, no, there's like a surging market here of like new product types. I think the numbered, the autos, the variants are just so much better than what we had back in the 80s and 90s. And so I was really looking at breaks on Instagram specifically. And I was like, okay, there's a local card shop near me. They're doing a break. I'll buy in. And what really pushed me down the road to create Loupe is the moment I had to leave the stream to pay them via PayPal and then come back to the stream and say that I sent the payment and who I was, and, like connect the two of like, this person that just paid you with all the notes is me, and you had to tell me how much the thing was, and I had to like send you the right amount. And I went, cool, this is very entertaining, but we could remove all of the friction just by building a platform that kind of mimics the live streaming of Instagram, but bakes all of the tools that you want to use as a breaker in. And it's just, I left my job, hired a couple friends on contract basically, and went, hey, can we build this and just prove the model? And we launched on October 23rd, and it's surpassed all of my expectations to the point where I feel like we're scrambling. Like we don't have an Android app because we were too afraid to make that bet, because like, oh, we spent all this time and money on iOS. What if it doesn't work and people don't like it? Do I really want to double up on that? Mm-hmm. And now we're kicking ourselves because we're like, all these Android people, all these collectors with Android are like, why aren't you have an app? Like, we just hired an Android dev. We'll get to it.
Yeah, I'm an Android guy, so I haven't firsthand played with it, but I know pretty much, the mechanics of it. Obviously, I'm very familiar with breaking. It sounds like what you've done is you've taken out that gap, like you said, Eric. Everything can be done right in the app. You don't have to leave, kind of reconnect, come back. Mm-hmm. It's sort of streamlines that whole process. When you think about it, it's surprising that it hasn't really been done before, but there you are, and kudos to you and your team to get it done. And like you said, Android's coming, so you got to wait a little bit. Good things come to those who wait. I'm an Android guy. I'm anxious to get my hands on it. How many breaks did you get in like yourself that until that light bulb sort of kind of went off and like, hey, I can do this. Probably I can make this process better for these folks that do this?
It was probably 3 or 4. It was, I think even in the first one, it kind of caught my attention of like, hey, I like doing this. The entertainment factor, the social factor of the live video break really caught my attention. And then when I did it the second time, that's when all of, the newness of it was now gone. Of like, okay, I know what to expect. I think it's that second stream where it became very obvious to me. It's like, oh, I was just learning, so I kind of let it slide because I'm the new guy to this. But the second and third time, I'm like, I know what I'm doing, and I'm still annoyed with this process. Like it's too long. It feels like it's too much process for the breaker. Like there's too much they have to go back and forth on and double check. I'm like, why isn't this just in the stream? So we launched with just the ability to stream, watch the stream, chat, and then the listing and purchasing is all in the live stream itself. And that seemed like a good version 1 just to like prove the model. And now we've baked in all of the shipping. We have a bunch of shipping in how to input the tracking as well as like track where your purchases are. And then there's a lot of other things like group breaks. We're looking at some kind of peer-to-peer selling as well. Maybe not a full marketplace per se, but we are looking at different ways from, I guess to really be clear, is we kind of see ourselves fitting in all pieces of your collecting. So from the education anticipation of products and when streams are, to viewing the stream, to buying, and then what do you do with that card once you buy it, or once you get a few cards, what do you actually do with them, and then how do you manage your collection and show off what you have, where you got it, etc. So we have a lot of plans, and I think my very ambitious goal is that everybody in the hobby will want to have Loupe on their phone, and even if you don't necessarily want to do a live break, or you don't do live breaks often, our app is still going to offer something very valuable to you in how you engage with your hobby.
So you're looking at maybe even a selling platform as well. So if someone's not into breaking, but hey, I can open this app and maybe either sell my card or purchase a card I'm looking to obtain.
Yeah, and we already have a couple people who have been selling singles. Like they still live stream, but they only sell singles. So Basketball Card Guy from Instagram is a great example where he basically curates a couple dozen cards, ranging from, a few dollars to hundreds, maybe even thousands. I think he had was it a Jason Tatum graded rookie? He had one card that was like well out of my price range for that night. But he goes through and kind of like tells the story of each card. And then if it doesn't sell, he puts it aside and then he moves on to the next one. And to me, that's way more interesting than just going to eBay, because now you have this person telling, like, he's way more knowledgeable about basketball cards than I am. So he's telling me about the player and the card and how he got it. And it's just like this learning. It's this purchase experience, but it's also educational and just entertainment. And then once he gets to the end, whichever ones didn't sell, he goes back through again one more time. And it's really cool just to see like what people collect, where he'll have like a Dennis Rodman card. I'm like, okay, I know who Dennis Rodman is. I appreciate it. But then there's like somebody in this stream who's super into Dennis Rodman, or they collect the Bulls and they're like, hey, this just made my night. Like, this is a card I didn't have in my collection. And, that's kind of sorry, I kind of went on a tangent there.
No, you're good. You're good.
I think we obviously want to do a lot more than just breaks, but I think the underlying connective tissue of it all is you love cards, you want to collect cards, and you want to talk to other people about cards. And I think that last part is really important. And I think that's a thread that we really try to run through all of our breaks is, yeah, you can jump in and buy something and jump back out, but the real the real joy of our platform is really like the regulars and the people coming in and talking about cards. And then when you get new people on the app, then there's like this whole new audience that you can like, oh yeah, I collect Russell Wilson cards because I love Russell Wilson and I love the Seahawks. And that there's the stories behind why you collect what you collect.
The community aspect of the hobby, which is I think we both know is huge.
Mm-hmm.
I think even more so in what we're going through now, Eric, with the pandemic, where the shows many shows, majority of shows have been canceled, including the National, the biggest one of them all, the Super Bowl of shows, and so. These things, in a sense, we had virtual shows and virtual national, and Loupe almost sounds like it's going to fit right into that genre. And even, when we get maybe on the better side of the pandemic as numbers go down, it's still going to have a very important purpose. Just even like you said, even on the breaking, that's sort of the nuts and bolts of it, and everything else kind of expands off of that, the community. We're going to step aside for a quick break. We're going to hear from one of our sponsors, Pastime Marketplace, some great cases from those folks. Pastime Marketplace offers a line of durable graded card cases made for collectors who want high-quality graded card storage that is virtually indestructible. Their cases are waterproof, dustproof, airtight, and designed to protect your valuable collection. Check them all out at www.pastimemarketplace.com. Protect your best with the best. And remember to save 10% off your total order. Use the promo code SCN10. That's capital S, capital C, capital N, 10 for 10% off your total order at pastimemarketplace.com. We are back with Eric Doty and more about the Loupe app. How nerve-wracking, how nervous was it to kind of leave your comfort zone and really put yourself out there, even with a team, but you front, being the head guy and kind of, diving in there, speak to sort of those feelings of venturing out there and getting it done now, but at the time not sure how this was really going to go.
Yeah, it was. So I gave notice I was leaving my job in January 2020, and then I stuck around for like a month. I did some consulting, and in March I went, okay, I'm doing Loupe. I'm registering as a company. Let's do this. And I got a part-time designer. I got a part-time developer. And this is just all money I had saved up. And I budgeted myself, and I budgeted how much, this is how much I need bare minimum to live, pay all my bills and food and probably nothing else. I still snuck in some cards every now and then because, that wasn't going to go away. But then there was the other part of okay, this is how much I have to operate the business month to month to just pay a developer. And we moved forward, and, March, April, I lived in downtown LA at the time, and the pandemic hit, and I'm like, oh man, what am I going to do? Because, this is a big deal. And then I realized, well, I wasn't going to get an office anyway. My team was remote and wasn't going to be in person for a while anyway. And then I started to realize that because it was people were home, they seemed to just still be really engaged with the hobby online. Breaks seemed to get bigger and bigger, as did a lot of just online shopping in general. And, it's kind of bittersweet of I didn't get to see my family. There's a lot, I didn't get to see my friends. I was in a small apartment downtown LA. I couldn't go anywhere. And LA was, well, even now it's pretty bad. It was one of the harder hit areas, and they've fluctuated on their rules, but cool, I'm just going to sit inside and this is all I'm going to work on. And we started to get a little, I did, I think it's I'd have to go back and look, but I would estimate I did about 200 pitch meetings because we were bootstrapped. And then I was like, okay, well, I'm starting to run out of money. Either I need to kill this thing and go get a real job, or we need to take some money to like keep this thing going. And we were lucky to get a little bit of money from some angels. And that was like, okay, we can get this across the line and get this shipped. We'll figure it out later. And we shipped, and then immediately all the doubt that we had was like gone, because it's like, oh wow, I'm selling on it. We're starting to sign some breakers who are like, they use it once and it clicks. It's like, oh, this is what you built. And then you get investors who you go back to and say, hey, we're live now, check this out. And they join one night and they buy a pack of cards, and then it clicks with them and they're like, oh, okay, I already kind of knew what cards were, but this is really cool. You built something that like gives you that instant dopamine hit, basically, of like, you want something. Oh, and then there's like the reveal and everybody in chat's like cheering you on. And if you get a big hit, like there's the big hooray from everyone. So because of the launch, we got a little bit more angel, and that allowed us to really just invest in really pushing for like a couple months. And that's the point where we saw the most growth. Like we were signing partners. And that's when ultimately the news just came out yesterday that we have a total of 3 million in fundraising. And it was led by Upfront in LA. Greg Bettinelli was our lead there. And he comes from a space of he loves sports cards and got really heavy into it recently, which probably helped a lot with the investment. And then we also got Nat Turner, who's currently doing the big deal with Collectors Universe and PSA. And I think there were just these, to kind of go back to your original question, is it was scary as hell. And then it was like, cool, I'm really nervous. And then it was some building confidence. And now that we have money and there's all this expectation and there's a lot more eyes on us because of the news, like our registration and usage has gone through the roof in the last 24 hours. Now it's like that nervousness again of like, oh, I don't want to let all these people down.
Yeah.
So it's an ebb and flow of nervousness and confidence, I guess.
And it's crazy to think when you this idea was born, the pandemic hadn't hit yet, and here now, literally, right when you're about to get this thing going, here comes the pandemic, and I mean, jeepers, I would think that would probably, that fear factor goes up when you think, because we didn't, in the hobby. We didn't know how the pandemic was going to affect the hobby side. I mean, especially early on, we didn't know if this was going to be something here for a month or two, and then it's gone. We're good, and and I'm only going to speak to the hobby side. I want to be very sensitive. People obviously have died from COVID-19, but I was on this very show, Eric, kind of telling folks just from 30 years of experience, like, I'm a little worried, you might want to tighten, your seatbelt. I don't know if cards are going to be in the forefront of people's minds when they can't go anywhere, or they might lose their employment, or their income or discretionary income might be affected. And we didn't know, a lot of unknowns and stuff, that no one's really been through before on these levels. And, when you look at, you touched on this yourself, and what you said is it wound up being more people had downtime at home or working from home that could do some other stuff. And, we had some of the stimulus package and unemployment perks. That did give some people some more discretionary income. And I think, the hobby, as 2020 was arguably the best year in the hobby. And when you put that up against at the same time chronologically with a worldwide pandemic, it's hard to believe, but it happened. And here, even in the start of 2021, the hobby's off to a pretty good start. We've seen
Mm-hmm.
a lot more celebrities get involved in the hobby. Where hobby, it was kind of, if someone said, what do you like to do, or what's your hobby? And you're like, I collect cards. It was sort of, you're a little bit, you didn't advertise it as much. And now it's cool. I mean, you got celebrities, you got even, and I'm not even, you're talking actors, and now you got even the athletes themselves getting hands-on with the cards. And now it's cool to, you don't have to be shy about it at all. And, people, we've seen what these cards do in the auction markets, these high-end stuff. It's become an investment asset. People like to debate that, but I don't, to me, that's not debatable when you see what some of these cards are bringing on the auction market. And, tying this all back into breaks, many of these, in a break you can hit, in National Treasures, you can get Zion Williamson worth $250,000 potentially. Mm-hmm. Not obviously likely, but the potential, the potential's there. And 2020, what probably was a nervous time for you in a weird sort of way, probably helped in the long run.
Yeah, and we see it as we're only as successful as our partners, the breakers that we sign, which I want to be clear is, and there was a little confusion early on, is with Loupe, not everyone that just downloads the app can immediately sell. It's not like eBay. You do have to get approved by us. We look, for making sure you've been in business for a long time, that you're that you meet kind of like our brand. Like if somebody joins Loupe for the first time and you're the first stream they see, like, is that good for us? Is kind of, and you're accountable. So, early on we were talking to these sellers and the pandemic starting to grow. And it's interesting because one of our sellers is a father-son duo who runs a physical card shop in Virginia. And, like the pandemic reduced foot traffic, and they're selling online and they're selling through Instagram breaks. And I'll never forget the first night that they streamed. It was that night or the next morning. They emailed me and said, we did more in one night on Loupe than we do in about a week on Instagram. And to me, that was like, okay, this is the solution. Like this, like we're obviously providing a benefit to your business, which is the most important thing, which, I don't sleep a lot. Stuff like that keeps me up at night. So even getting like one nice email is like, oh yes, we did something right. And then the other is like, I think one of our breakers, they had like full-time jobs or a couple jobs, and the pandemic hits and all of a sudden they can't do anything. And, they're unsure, like, the lockdown's going to get lifted. How are their jobs going to operate? And so they just started breaking and, getting in the sports cards as a business. And, it only has gone great for them since then. And now they're opening their own brick and mortar card shop. And to think where they were when they started with Loupe just a few months ago, and now they're like fulfilling this dream and like leasing an actual physical space to have a card shop and stream from. And that's the stuff I always want to tell, no matter if it's now six months or 6 years down the road. If Loupe is successful, those are the stories I want to be able to tell. And, we all dealt with the pandemic in different ways and in all its hardships, but, we all took advantage of it and came out the other side, hopefully as better people and more successful.
We're going to take a quick break to hear from one of our sponsors, but we'll be right back with more from Eric. Let me tell you about Iron Sports Cards and Collectibles. They're your number one source for all your PSA submissions. They offer various service levels at the lowest prices around. They even provide the card savers your cards need to be submitted at no extra charge. Their elite status helps improve turnaround times, and their chat rooms keep you abreast of your subs and the status of your cards. What are you waiting for? Contact Rob on Facebook, on Iron Sports Card Group. That's Iron Sports Card Group on Facebook. Or get a hold of Rob on Twitter at Iron Sports Cards, all one word, at Iron Sports Cards. They'll take care of you. Sports Card Nation is back with Eric Doty. I imagine even before you launched it, you probably went to breakers and kind of told them what you were thinking about doing, and just to get how was what did were most of them pretty in tune with it? Did you get any kind of pushback? Did people maybe think you were like wishful thinking, like you can't do, what was the general consensus with most of the breakers you spoke to early on?
It was all over the place. So Ecto Selecto, who's on Loupe, a breaker on Loupe, he was I believe our first official one that signed, and he was super positive. Like he's one of the few people early on who just got it immediately. It was like, oh, I stream and sell on Instagram. You've basically built a super nice version of that for me personally, basically. And so there was that end, and there's some others who got it or some level of, and then on the other end, people were just like, who the hell is this guy? I've never heard of you. You want me to do what? I'm already doing it over here. Why would I try it somewhere else? I feel like I'm doing okay. Or like, what's Loupe? That's a dumb name. There was definitely a couple of those. And then, it's one of those things where you just need to you need to build your story, and you need to build the basically the case studies, like, hey, so-and-so has used us. They've done really well for themselves. You should at least give us a try. And, that's kind of been my approach since then. And it's been really good. Now I have more seller applications in my inbox than I can keep up with. So that's going to be my next probably 2 weeks is reviewing those and getting people into the platform.
Yeah. And I'm sure you'll agree, word of mouth is probably sometimes the best advertising you can do. Someone else, if you're familiar with the breaker community, many, as competitive as it might be, there's also a camaraderie there where they talk to each other. And so, if one of them's really doing well on it, they're probably telling, hey, I'm Loupe's been a big difference maker. For me, it's a game changer. And that stuff, that grapevine stuff is you can't put a price on that. And like you said, it might be someone early on that was a little bit hesitant, or I don't know, I'm doing all right on my own, thanks but no thanks. And here you are, you got an application, and they've done a 180, and it's that's a good thing. And as what you get on Android here, even more so, that just opens up more opportunities for people to use the platform, the application. And like you said, you got other things eventually planned. I don't expect you to give away the Colonel Sanders recipe, but and now you mentioned with the seed money, the investment, $3 million that can go a long way. Kind of speak to that. What does that do for you as a group, as a platform? What opportunities can that open up that maybe weren't there prior to that?
Yeah, and so the first thing I did when I knew that money was coming in, was there was a lot of meetings and a lot of struggle and uncertainty. So step one was dance around my apartment. That was the first thing. The second was going to everyone who basically was working in some capacity on Loupe and saying, if you want a full-time job, it's yours. And that was a huge moment to say, if you want to quit your day job to work on this, you can. And so they're, obviously allocating, money for that, and then hiring for the roles that we need to fill. So there was obviously an Android dev we've already hired. He starts very soon. We already did some work on Android, but he's really here to make it professional and get it shipped. There's our next role that we're hiring is actually up on our website. it's kind of a marketplace operations person. And that's really because I'm doing like 4 or 5 jobs right now. And I think the one thing that I struggle with time-wise is really how do we manage our relationships with streamers, with the breakers, as well as how do we take it from 25, 30 people to 100 or 200 and make sure that they don't cannibalize each other's business, and make sure that everyone's having a good time and building their business and being successful on the platform. And there's only so far I can go with that when I'm doing everything else. So that's our next big hire is it's like a marketplace operations manager. So someone with preferably a couple years experience running a marketplace somewhere. That's my recruiting pitch, if anybody's out there. Also, I mean, obviously I said we already have probably a few dozen applicants for breakers, but we're always taking more. If you're just really positive and have inventory and want to bring something special to our community, the door is always open. It might take a few weeks for us to get you in because we don't want to like put 20 people live on the same day all at once and just say, go figure it out. We like to take a very white glove treatment. So money also kind of helps with that as we do promotions. Do we advertise? Do we do user acquisition? We actually did holiday bonuses around Christmas and New Year's Eve because we just knew that there's a big chance that breakers would probably take time off and want to spend with their family. And this wasn't meant to take them away from their family, but it was more of like, if you're spending your time with us and with our community during that time, we'll actually pay you a little bit of bonus just for like, really believing in us. And it was still only our second month. So it was like really, believing in us and like bringing something to the community. So yeah, that money really does that. It gives us a lot of money to do interesting things around promotions. Obviously we're going to try to go to the national, assuming the pandemic isn't too much in play by then. We're missing Dallas. We know a couple people that stream on Loupe that are going to Dallas, and I'm so jealous. I loaded them up with some like QR codes for their business cards, and I need to send some shirts. I just got a bunch of Loupe shirts created, so I need to send those out to people. But yeah, the money really is just to scale and keep building and bringing in audiences so that every time we onboard a new creator, and I say creator and I say streamer because we do actually see ourselves doing a mix of breaking, single selling, and then also card related content that isn't necessarily selling. So I say breaker, streamer, and creator interchangeably because ultimately we're going to have a lot of different things card related on the platform.
Yeah. So the Android app's in the works. A time for those listening, maybe a timetable when you think that may be available to that side of the aisle.
Yeah, Brandon, who's our Android dev, will probably kick me if I put too firm a window on it. I'm going to be realistic and probably say early April. If we can do maybe a limited feature release before then, that's just like the bare minimum, and then there'd be 1 or 2 releases after with more. Maybe we could do a little bit earlier. We're also looking at Canada. Sorry, I caught a little car driving by there. So yeah, we're also looking at opening up to Canada, both for breakers, but mostly for sellers. We have one guy here in the States who almost exclusively does hockey. And I know every single day he's like, man, if I just had Canadians on my side. So hopefully the expansion to Canada will be coming in a couple weeks as well.
Yeah. And by the way, that sound you heard is probably a sound you're not as familiar with now, living in California, but I was a snowplow here in Syracuse.
It's been a very, very long time since I heard a snowplow.
So, but yeah, that's exciting. I mean, April, when you think about it, I mean, we're literally in February here. And so that's really not, like you said, you don't have to put pressure on your guy, but that's not really, we're looking at a couple months potentially where Android users, such as myself and many others, will have access to the app and to utilize it, and that'll be nice. And I'm looking forward to it. I'm kind of living vicariously through others' reviews and posts, and like that'll be good. And I think even once that happens, that just opens the interface up to that many more people to get on board. Going to step away for a quick break and a word from one of our sponsors, but we'll be back with Eric Doty and the Loupe. One of One Card Shop offers a tremendous breaking experience, great customer service, and they're constantly pulling fire. Steve and his family take care of you like one of their own and treat you right. Anyone can break, but no one treats you like One of One. Come check them out on Instagram at one_of_one_card_shop. For all the hot breaks, get a gold mailer headed your way. Sports Card Nation is back with Eric Doty. I plan on being at the National if there is one. Cross our fingers, and that'll be a huge deal too. That's I don't know if I'm the first one. I've always coined it the Super Bowl of the hobby, that show, and you see if it exists, it's there. And speaking of existing, now that you've launched, you're doing well. Are you concerned with maybe someone trying to in any kind of industry and business, there's always the copycats, the ones that like to come, after the originals and follow, through that hole that you open? Is that something that's in the back of your mind, or obviously you got to be focused on what you're doing and not lose sight of that. But you expect something like that down the line, or how do you approach that sort of, something like that?
Yeah, it's inevitable, really, that, there would be another thing like Loupe, whether it's in a month or 6 months or a year. I think what I always think about with everything I work on is we have a vision and we have a direction, and regardless of what's going on around you, you just have to go forward. And our goals are, led by the fact that we're only as successful as the people that use the platform, whether that's on the selling side or the buying side. And I think if we look at everything through that lens, it's honest work. It's an honest business. And that's really important to us, is like, we're not gouging on fees. We're well below eBay and other competitors. Everything we do, if we offer a subscription, there's going to be a ton of value to that. I think as long as we stay with that, people will know. And there's also kind of a general, and one of our investors, Darren Herman, is rising tides lift all boats sort of thing. So I welcome competitive in the fact that it drives me to be better and be our best company. And there's absolutely no reason why somebody couldn't have two apps on their phone and switching between, Loupe's doing a special promotion tonight, I want to be over there. So yeah, I'm definitely not one of those people that's like, I'm going to crush competition. It's like, we're just going to be true to ourselves and build what people want. No,
that's great. And that's probably the best way you can be. And here's the thing, you know firsthand, Eric, even more than I do. You're right in that trench. Not easy to do what you know what I mean? It's not as easy as maybe some people initially might think. And now with the recent investment, you have some star power, some name power behind the brand. That's always a huge thing. Sometimes even more than the financial aspects. People will say, look, these are very smart people who are putting their name attached to this, and that goes a long way, as well as more than even the financial sometimes. So I think it bodes well for the future of Loupe. And like I said, I'm waiting for the Android side, and I'll definitely be talking about it. But I'm glad you came on and shared that. I know we touched base a little bit sooner. I think I was a little bit hesitant because I really hadn't used it myself, but in honestly, in seeing a lot of the great feedback out there on social media, people who are using it and hands-on on both sides, the selling and the buying into brakes or purchasing, both mostly positive reviews, just really praising what you created here. And I think it bodes well, and I appreciate you, coming on and talking about it, and obviously continued success for you as well, as you not only make what you have better, but even expand upon it and add to it.
Yeah, and thank you for taking the bet on this without using it yet. But like I said, hopefully Android will be out in a couple months. You will not miss it. We will shout it from the mountaintops. We'll probably do some special sales to celebrate. And we want to surprise you. Like the other night, I did a $10,000 NBA mixer, and how many times do you get to participate in something like that? Yeah. Like random. I was just like, all right, well, next week we're doing it. And I want to do stuff like that. It's fun.
Just spontaneous stuff. That is fun. And I love, and listen, once I use it, man, we'll have to have you back on, and then we can do this again with more of me, like, getting the ride the car, so to speak. So
yeah, I'm sure we will have a couple months. Yeah, we'll have a lot to talk about by then. We have big plans.
Yeah, I'm sure there'll be a few new wrinkles too as well.
Mm-hmm.
Well, again, Eric, thanks for coming on, man. Thanks for being, so upfront about some of that financial stuff. And, I know sometimes people don't like always to talk about things like that, but you're very, upfront about it, and shared, kind of gave us a little look behind the curtain, if you will. I always give whoever the guest is, the final word, give out all the websites, where to download Loupe, and all that good stuff. Take your time. The floor is yours.
Cool. So Loupe is spelled Loupe. So if you search that on the iOS App Store, we're the top result. You can go to loupetheapp.com. That's our website, which also has a download link. And then Loupe the app is our Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. So we post all over the place. Get the app. We have a blog inside of it with content. We have breaks every single night. Make sure you have push notifications on, because we always send those for the big breaks and new products that are out. And that's it. Really excited to see where we are in a few months. Got some big plans ahead.
And I may not have the app at this point, but I'm keeping tabs, just anticipating of downloading and like I said, taking it for a spin around the few blocks rather than one. So, Eric, thanks again, and like I said, we'll have to do this again once I get that user end experience as well.
For sure. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.
We love our listeners. Without you, there is no us. We care about your opinions and feedback and invite you to reach out to us on any of our social media accounts. On Instagram at Sports Card Nation Podcast, Twitter at SportsCardNati1, or email the show at sportscardnationpc@gmail.com. We don't ask for much, but if you really like the show, give us a shout out. Tell your friends or give us a follow on our social medias. If you enjoyed the show, please give us a positive review on iTunes or any of the platforms you are listening on. Thank you.
All right, time for this week's In Memoriam. And again, we're doing this every week, and it's just, I hate this segment. It means we lost some stars of the game. And start with NFL player, 13-year veteran, Tony Jones, passed away on January 22nd, 54 years old. He was a member of Cleveland, Baltimore, but more famously of the Broncos, lineman, won 2 Super Bowl rings in Denver and named to their top 100 team. Tony Jones, 54 years old. And this next gentleman that I unfortunately have to do the honor of paying my respects, one of the greatest baseball players of all time, arguably the greatest living ball player that we had, along with Willie Mays. He's passed away. Hank Aaron, legend, icon. I could do a whole show just on some of the incredible records he holds, but obviously let's start with 755 career home runs. He's the home run leader in my book, folks. I'm not going to debate you on it, but he did it the right way. 755 home runs. Played in some dead ball eras too. He didn't play with a lot of the balls that some of the modern day players got to use. He's the Major League's all-time leader in RBIs with 2,297. Total bases with 6,856. And third all-time in hits. He was the 1957 NL MVP for the World Series, champion Braves that year. This guy, we know him for home runs. He won 2 batting championships as well, 3-time Gold Glove winner. And he was an all-star in every season from 1955 to 1975. Think about that. Every year was selected for the All-Star game for 20 straight years. Elected to the Hall of Fame in 1982. Hank Aaron was 86 years old.
I know the chunky that left these chunkies. Newman! Open the door, Newman. I know you're in there.
Sports Card Nation. All right, it's time for Newman's Rambling, where I select one question I get each week and answer it on the air.
John, you seem like an astute man.
Thank you, Mr. Walken.
Maybe you can help explain something to me.
Well, I'll give it my best shot. All right, today's question comes by way of Twitter from listener Charles Baumgartner. Gave us a nice compliment that he enjoys the show. He's at Chuck2445 on Twitter. And he said, with all the passing legends, I would like to know who is on your Mount Rushmore of sports. You can pick the sports or sports. Love the podcast. It keeps me entertained while working. Okay, so he asked me for my Mount Rushmore. Now, everyone knows, Jackie Robinson's my guy. But that's a personal thing, being from Brooklyn. So I'm going to leave that be what it is. And I'm going to pick, to me, kind of one guy from each sport that if, we're doing that Mount Rushmore, the 4 heads chiseled in stone, I'll use the 4 major sports. We'll start with baseball. That's a tough one. You can go a lot of ways here. But I'm going to go Babe Ruth. I think he's just the icon of the game. Just some of the stories, just the mammoth presence. And for the longest time, you said baseball. And Babe Ruth kind of is the first name that came to mind, young or old. And so I'll go Babe Ruth in baseball. And basketball, again, you could go a few different ways, but I think the obvious one's Michael Jordan. He really moves the needle. Even younger crowds that were not even alive when he played know who he is and attribute him as the greatest of all time, even though that can be up for debate. Moving on to football, again, a lot of ways to go. Some people could say Tom Brady. I'm not a Tom Brady guy, and I get the pick, so I'm going to leave Tom Brady off. I'm actually going to go a running back that played here at Syracuse, and that's Jim Brown, arguably the greatest football player ever to play in the NFL. And last but not least, you got hockey. And I think that one, again, you can go multiple ways, but I think it's you don't get the nickname the Great One by not being the Great One, and that's Wayne Gretzky. So, I'll go Jim Brown, Wayne Gretzky, Babe Ruth, and Michael Jordan. Hard to argue those. I mean, you can make cases for others. Everyone's list might be, a little bit different, but that's the beauty. So there's my Mount Rushmore. Thanks, Charles, for a great question. Made me think a little bit here on which way I wanted to go, but those are going to be the 4. All right, that's going to bring episode 112 to a close. As always, thank you out there that listen to the show, that makes the show what it is. Without you, we don't have a show. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. If you're a new listener, we're on the Spreaker Prime platform. Maybe you're a new listener. Maybe we're on a platform that you're familiar with that we weren't on before, and you've listened to the show for the first time. Thank you as well, and we hope you enjoyed the show. We're in the hundreds on the Sports Card Nation side, and our other show, which is a shorter form, no guest, just me picking a topic and ranting about it for about 15 to 30 minutes. That's called Hobby Quick Hits. Used to come out on Wednesdays. We're going to move that show to Monday. Sports Card Nation is Friday. So whether you're a listener that's been on board a while or a new one that's hopped aboard, doesn't make a difference. You're in the hobby. You're giving the show some time. We appreciate that. We're very, very appreciative about that, and thank you. Want to thank my guest, Eric Doty from the Loupe. A lot of insight to how that app got off the ground, and including some rough moments there that he kind of let us know about, but now that it's doing very well, and once it hits the Android side, it's probably going to even pick up more steam. They got some investment money that's going to propel that project and that app forward, and they got some future things on the horizon. It's not going to just be about breaks, and so it'll be interesting to see where that platform goes and winds up. And again, when it comes on Android, I'll be playing with it myself, as I said to Eric. Don't forget, Saturday mornings we have a hobby hotline. It's a group of about 10 content creators. We rotate appearances. This week, if you're listening to the show when this show has been released, this Saturday I will be appearing on it as well with Drew Herndon from Let Me Get That Potograph and Jeremy Lee from Sports Card Live. So should be interesting topics there as always, and that's 11 a.m. Eastern every Saturday. You can catch it in audio form, or you can catch it live, or if you miss both, you can catch it on YouTube as well. So with that being said, I'll tell you our guest next week will be Mr. Blake Jameson, artist of the Topps 2020 project, now the 1951 Top Series, and soon to be released Project 70. Talented artist. He'll be coming back to the show. He's been on a few times before, and great conversation with him coming up. So look forward to that. That'll be next week, Blake Jamerson. And a week after that, we're scheduled to have Ezra Levine from the Collectible app, the fractional shares market, that app, something I'm involved with personally, and we'll got a lot of questions pertaining to that niche of the hobby. So with that being said, we're going to put a bow tie on this thing. I want to wish everybody well. We're still in the pandemic. Be safe, be healthy, and we'll see you Monday for Hobby Quick Hits. We'll see you Friday for Sports Card Nation. Take care.